The bottom line is, that all of us, are just one tragedy away from being in the same situation. I mean, this could happen to anybody, the right sort of circumstance.
Homelessness. We all see it as a problem, but what do we do about it? Most of us don't do anything. We walk past them acting like it's normal. Because to us, it kind of is. Since the early 1900s to the 1980s to the present, we have had to live with this growing problem. But through that amount of time, it has changed. Homelessness in California has become very different from what it was back then. Yes, it has always been known as not having an adequate, sheltered, and permanent place to live, but that's not what changed. It's the details like the main reasons for homelessness, how we view the problem, or even what we're doing about it, that really shape our definition of homelessness. Though just hearing the facts about homelessness doesn't really get people to fully understand it. So this is Franklin's story.
John
Yeah,
and
hi.
Megan.
Come in, please.
Pleasure to meet you.
Hi, I'm Franklin.
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm
Hello.
Megan. This is the story of someone who was actually homeless. And no, he was not a drug addict or an alcoholic. Actually, he's only tried alcohol once. He has a college education and he's an amazing poet. But somehow he ended up where no one expected him to be. On the streets. Luckily, things did turn around for him. He met someone who shared his story and allowed him to get back on his feet. He was able to have a place to live and get the proper health care he needed.
And I'm Franklin Carr. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. I moved out here in California in March of 1994, and I've been here ever since. I worked 11 years for a video company, and then later on I got into security, and then I was in fundraising, and I had a problem, with my last employer because they weren't paying me the overtime. So I had to sue him, and I went to the labor board. And then, I started having trouble, with my, with my eyes, and I wasn't able, to work, anymore. I had to try to apply for Social Security disability, and they gave me a real hard time. And through this is when I met Darren, and I was going through a lot of drama because the only thing that social services could offer me was Skid Row, and I was getting something called General Relief, GR, and they only give you a maximum of $221 a month. So I had that and CalFresh, which was the food stamps, for $193. And that was only in food stamps. So all I had was just basically the $221 to live off, and I had to pay for a storage unit, I had to pay for a P.O. box, and then I had to have my food. So I was toughing it out on the streets because the only thing that they would offer me is Skid Row. And out of Skid Row, they wanted $60 of the $221 cash benefit they were giving you. But the Skid Row was a cesspool. You had a lot of drug addicts, and you could see the crack vials and the cocaine and the heroin, all over the street on the sidewalks. And I'm like, my God, there's no way I'm going to live in a cesspool. I would take my chances on the street. So I had a choice that I could have, done that and lived, in that environment, or take my chances on the street. I chose to take my chances on the street. And that's how I became homeless until I got my Social Security and was able to get off the streets.
Just like Franklin, many people have suffered from federal and state aid not keeping up with the rise of homelessness. People rely on these federally funded programs for food, medical care, and housing. But when cuts are made, they have to choose between food or shelter. In the 1980s, reasons were different. One reason was thousands of mentally ill patients were released from state-run institutions to participate in community groups. But most just ended up on the streets. Back in the late 1800s to the early 1900s, Major reason for homelessness was a rise in immigrants and more young people started moving away from the rural areas. This caused many children to end up on the streets. More than 100 years ago, there was a higher ratio of children to adults homeless, while now it's just the complete opposite. Homelessness has been a problem in California for over 100 years and will continue to grow until greater changes are made.
They need to be more people friendly, because life is not user friendly.
Together, we can make a change.